Hey everybody, it's Principal Anderson at Michelle Clark, and I am so excited because I think sometimes we perish because of the lack of knowledge, or sometimes because of our lack of knowledge, we sometimes, will turn our back or not look on something. And so I am so excited to be joined with Miss Fader today, because as we always get to like December, we go into this whole holiday spirit, and a lot of people, when they hear Hanukkah, doesn't know that much about Hanukkah or anything. So let me first have Miss Fader introduce herself, and then we can just dive into talking about like Hanukkah. What should people know about it and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Miss Fader, and this is my 8th year at Michelle Clark.
Wow,
which
you
is
came
crazy.
right after me.
And I am a DL math teacher, so just dedicated to supporting the kids here. And so, I am Jewish. And so being Jewish, we celebrate the holiday Hanukkah. And it's very interesting, actually, that you talk about like around this holiday time, because it's only a holiday time for Christians who celebrate Christmas, realistically. Hanukkah happens to fall around this time, but we have a Jewish calendar, so it's actually like in the month of Kislev, so there is no like American date that's attached to it. So this year Hanukkah happens to fall on like around Christmas time, but some years it's November, some years it's around this time. It depends on if we have a leap year or not.
That helps me because I was confused, because I was like, wait, did I miss it? And then all of a sudden I started seeing everything, and I was like, I'm so confused.
Yeah, we have a lunar calendar, and so it's on the 25th of Kislev. Like, it's just, that's the name of the month, the date. And it just depends on when that falls. And so our months are completely based off of the moon cycle. So it's just an interesting thing. And also interesting about Hanukkah occurring during this time, it's typically the most well-known Jewish holiday.
Yes.
But it's actually one of our most insignificant holidays that we celebrate.
Really?
Yeah.
And so for me, it's one of the most known, and I'm always like, what do you like? It's one of, and I don't know why it became probably the most known, but you then start saying, do I say? And so that's why I was like holiday season,
right.
But like you just said, it's really not necessarily holiday.
To be honest, like I don't know if everyone feels this way. Me personally, I mean, I don't mind people just saying like it's Christmas time because that's what it is. I don't feel the need, like I feel like if we're trying to really understand like Jewish holidays, like our bigger holidays are our New Year and Day of Repentance, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which typically happen around September, October time, if we're putting it to the American calendar or the English, whatever, agrarian calendar. But it's actually also kind of ironic that Hanukkah has been so assimilated into like culture, American culture or the world culture, because Hanukkah is really about like the history of it. It's not a biblical holiday. It's so it's not what we would call religious, a religious holiday. It's about so our holidays are either religious, like biblical. We have rules and laws in the Torah and the Bible, or they're really about like commemorating a significant event that happened to the Jewish people and that we're like honoring or remembering it. And that's what Hanukkah is. The word Hanukkah in Hebrew means dedication. And it is a story of taking back our Jewish temple that's in Jerusalem. So it's very historical. It goes back to Alexander the Great when he took over that land. So what is modern day Syria, Lebanon, Israel, and Egypt. Alexander the Great conquered that land. At the time, it was Phoenicia, what I think it was called. And during that time, he believed in like religious freedom, so it wasn't as hostile.
Right.
But a lot of people started assimilating to the Hellenistic like culture, the way they dressed, the way they like hung out, the way they would be around people and everything, the language, because Jewish people have always spoken Hebrew. But when the land got conquered, they started speaking like the other languages that would take place. They assimilated. What happened, though, was after Alexander the Great, the next king, Antiochus IV, he took over and he wanted more unity.
In the language and everything else?
Everything. And so he started oppressing Jewish people. They weren't allowed to practice Judaism. They would be killed if they were. He took over the temple and he made it Hellenistic. He put a Hellenistic priest in there, and he made like a sacrifice of a pig in there, which is not kosher. So it's like really like defacing it. And so Jewish people were not allowed to be Jewish. They weren't allowed to practice religions. They weren't allowed to publicly be Jewish.
They had to hide it.
They had to hide it.
Yeah.
And if they got caught, they got killed. Or a lot of them assimilated for safety purposes. So I always kind of wonder, because a lot of the stories of Jewish people is about their need to assimilate. Yeah. And I always wonder how many more Jewish people there would be in the world if all of the assimilation didn't need to happen, or all the conquering and killing of Jewish people, because we have our own culture, we have our own religion, we have our own identity, so we don't need it. And so the story of Hanukkah comes from there was a small group of people who banded together to revolt against the king and the new ruling of that. They weren't.
These were the radical people.
The radicals, right? So the one of the main characters, his name is Judah the Maccabee. So the Maccabees were the I guess like the army that was formed, and it's really like a David and Goliath story, because you have the small Maccabees fighting against the Syrian Greek like world, which they were big on fighting and fitness and everything, and they won, and they were able to take back the Jewish temple. And for Jewish people at the time, synagogues didn't exist until we were exiled from Judea, from the land. Because there were no Jewish people anywhere but in that area. So our entire religious and identity and everything took place. So, you would have business meetings and networking in the outside area of the temple, and then all the religious stuff would happen inside the temple. And so the word Hanukkah, which means dedication, it's like the rededication of the Jewish temple, taking it back for us.
So do people say Happy Hanukkah?
Yeah.
Because then it's a happy...
Yeah, it's a celebration. It's a very big celebration. So there are... The main, I guess, rule or Jewish law or custom that we have to follow during that time is we light a Chanukiah.
Right.
Taken from the word Hanukkah. So it's like the Chanukiah. And the reason why we light a Chanukiah is because in the temple, there was a 7-pillared menorah or candelabra, which is a menorah. And that is actually the current symbol of Israel is this menorah. So that's like when you see it in the courthouses and everything.
So when they light one, it's supposed to stay lit all the way till...
Well, so there's over the night, there's like an eternal light that's supposed to be lit. So the menorah was lit as like the eternal light in the temple. And, but obviously when the temple was taken away, they like took all of anything Jewish, they took out of there and destroyed it, a lot of it, and what happened was, the story goes that when they rededicated the temple, they found a broken menorah at the time, and they used oil at the time to light it. And it was a great miracle because there was not a lot of oil. They just had a war and everything, and the little amount of oil that they had lasted for 8 nights, which is why we celebrate Hanukkah for 8 nights. So each night we light a candle, we add a candle. So the first night 1, the second night we light 2 candles, third night we light 3 candles.
I just didn't know if when you light the one, it stays lit all the way till you get to the...
No, the commandment is that it only needs to burn for 30 minutes. So the Hanukkah candles actually are designed that they will burn for 30 minutes and then they go out.
Because I was always like, those can't burn.
No.
It
those
many
burn
days.
The whole night. No.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
No, it's not like a memorial candle that's like designed to light for 24 hours or for the whole day of memorial. That's not what it is. It's just to light it. And that's why we also call Hanukkah the Festival of Light, because it is... And that's something that's like a real, it's like a real Jewish feeling that like we are the light in the world. So like in darkness, we always find light. So it's all about just celebrating, our existence and everything. And it really speaks on, the fight that like Jewish people have just always refused to be taken down, right? And they will fight for our needs, and they have the right to do that. They have the right to defend themselves. They have the right to exist. They have the right to exist in their homeland, regardless of who the current political, empires were. Even to this day, we talk about that the Israelis and everything have the right to exist.
And so if you, like in talking to people who are listening to this, what would be like two things that you're like, this is, if you don't remember anything else, these are the two things I would want you to know about Hanukkah or like what it means to me or.
Yeah. So to me, Hanukkah, so like how we celebrate it is we come together and we join together and we light the Hanukkah. I find it to just be really beautiful. You're supposed to actually put it out like by a window so that the world can see it, right? So it's like that. It is really a festival of light. It's funny because, as I said, it's not really like that significant of a holiday in terms of like the rules that like we have to follow. But it is just a time to just remember like where we've come from, to remember that there has always been darkness and that we are the light. And that's something to me that it's like a reminder of that. And it's
I think
like my purpose
that
moving
could move
forward.
For anybody that they could say, look how far our family come and then look how far our cultures come and lighten that, I think that brings us closer together than further apart. And sometimes there's so many things that really, we have more similarities than differences and people sometimes look at the differences so much that the differences become such a huge portion versus saying, look at all the things we got alike that we really support or that we really believe or
absolutely,
and so that's really why I wanted to do this too, because I think sometimes, like I said, because of ignorance of us not knowing or not understanding, sometimes we can ostracize or we can say things or we can ignore different people's religion, their ideas or whatever, just because we don't look at what the similarities or because we don't get an understanding.
I mean, I always say it's really important to have conversations. And it's funny because the amount of times that I've had conversations with people and they'll say to me like, oh, what are you doing for Christmas? Or what are you getting for Christmas? And I say, I don't celebrate Christmas. And they give me this look like, what? And I was like, okay, but I say this realistically, if you take all of the religions that are not Christian, majority of them don't celebrate Christmas and they don't follow that, so it's just an interesting thing. It really talks about sort of the mindset of,
just being fair too, is that I think one of the things that has become so big about Christmas is really the outside of buying gifts and so I don't know, like sometimes I always stop and be like, well, did we take away the whole purpose of it to become so what's the word where you think
it's
about
like commercialism?
Yes, thank you. Like it becomes so commercialized that you really lost the whole message.
And that's something that, and it's, so we also do give gifts, but there's no there was traditions that you used to give people like some gold coins and just things like that.
Right. I saw that when I was looking
gift
it up.
giving. Yeah. So the gold coins comes up in like a game that we just learned to, we play. Again, it's just a fun thing to do. But the gift giving thing is really just, again, an assimilation concept. Like there's no real connection to it, like that you have to give a gift and everyone always, oh, you're so lucky you get 8 nights of gifts. And it's just like, it's a part of it. For my family, like once we became bar bat mitzvah age, which is like 12 or 13 years old, we stopped giving gifts. Or my parents, they made us only because they needed to drive us, but they made us do some, like a day of charity. And then we would get the gift. But that has nothing to do with Hanukkah, but it was just that like what my family did because,
and I think there's a lot of families that have family traditions that sometimes you look up and you're like, yeah, that really doesn't have anything, but that's what we're used to doing now, right?
Exactly.
But then it becomes a part of your life.
Exactly.
And you're like, I want to continue doing that because I've seen the benefits of doing that.
I want to give back before I receive, you know? Yeah. And we were talking about the gold coins. That's something now that we have, one of the foods that we eat. So we think a lot about oil as like a main theme. So we eat potato pancakes or
Yeah.
latkes because they're fried in oil, or I guess a jelly-filled donut, but it's called sufganiyot, and in Hebrew, and it's, again, it has to do with like you fry it, you make a donut in oil, you cook the latkes in oil, so it's like that's the theme. Where the tradition comes that you would give gold coins out. We now have what's called gelt, and it's chocolate with a gold
Yes,
wrapper that
that's
looks like
what I've
the
seen.
And we play this game. It's a dreidel, which is the spinning top. And that's like what most people see. And it's like a gambling game.
Yeah.
And what happens is there's 4 Hebrew letters on it. Nun, Gimel, Hey, Shin, which means it stands for Nes Gadol Haya Sham. A great miracle happened there.
Oh, okay.
And actually in Israel, it says instead of the shin, which means sham, it has a pei for po, meaning here. The great miracle happened here because it happened in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
That's where the temple was rededicated, where they took it back. So in Jerusalem, we have been there for a long time because, I mean, Alexander the Great, I think they say it's like 180 something like BCE that this happened. So that's, a long time that Jerusalem has been the center of who we are. And, but you just play the spinning top, and then whatever letter it lands on, like if it lands on a nun, you get nothing. If it lands on a shin, you have to like put 2 in. Hey, you can take half or something like that. So it's like a gambling, like poker coin game, basically. And the gimel, you get it all. And then whoever gets the pot, that's what it is. I actually don't really know where like the game came from, other than they were trying to like incorporate that Hebrew phrase that a great miracle happened there, that like we were able to win, take back our identity, to freely practice being Jewish, that we didn't have to hide. Yeah, didn't have to hide. I mean, a lot of hiding happened in Jewish history.
I think that happens in a lot of, even today, kids will hide, and I should say kids, but students will hide their being smart because they don't want to be ridiculed.
Right.
And so then you're like, it's okay.
Yeah.
But we've learned how to like either like cover it up, or become something else so that people don't know. Because I always think about like in history, like, would you have wanted to be back during that time, or you good here?
Oh, right, exactly.
Because I don't know if I was a fighter back then.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I think about that a lot, obviously, because I mean, I grew up, I went to a Jewish school growing up, so I've been studying, half my days were general ed subjects and half were Judaic subjects. So it's like I've spent my entire life learning, and obviously age appropriate.
Right.
It's like when we're younger, we color in the dreidels, and then as we get older, we actually learn the actual history of what actually happened. And I think about that all the time because, look, I'm very grateful to be living in a time right now where there is definitely more religious freedom. There's still a lot of oppression and hate going on, and there's a lot of misinformation happening, and I'm grateful to be living in a time where Israel exists, just in terms of like safety and feeling comfort and acceptance. But it is hard. I mean, there are things where it's like, there are times that I do feel the need that I have to like hide or downplay something because,
like I was saying with the students, because
exactly.
you just like it, or sometimes it just feels like too much to explain.
Yeah, exactly.
And so let me just say thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And so I hope that everybody hears not only the passion from you, the education that you got, but that they understand, because I think, as you said, we were thinking, oh, it's conjunction, so it's almost like that's how Jewish celebrate. So they give gifts and we give gifts, and so thank you for clearing that up.
Absolutely.
And I'm hoping that everybody hears this, see all of our similarities, and this to me was another opportunity to bring our similarities versus always talk about our differences. So thank you so much, Ms. Feder.
It was really great. I loved it.
And so now people can say to you, Happy Hanukkah.
Yep.
And when you say it, at least you will know some of the meaning behind it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it'll be great. And I can't wait. And I'll wish you a Merry Christmas in return if that's what you celebrate.
Right. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right. This is Principal Anderson signing off with the great Ms. Feder talking about Hanukkah. I hope you guys learned something through this.